Among the many weapons of Middle-earth, few held as much renown as the blades crafted by the elves. These were no ordinary swords or daggers, they were the product of millennia of refinement, artistry, and enchantment. Where men forged weapons of steel and dwarves carved axes of unmatched durability, the elves brought to their blades a harmony of function and beauty. To wield an elven blade was to carry both a weapon and a work of art, one imbued with the light and memory of the firstborn. The tradition of elven swordsmithing went back to the First Age, when the Noldor brought their craft out of Valinor and into Beleriand. Feanor and his kin were not only masters of jewelcraft, but also of weaponry, and it was said that the elves of the Noldor forged swords that glowed with moonlight and carried inscriptions of runes that warded against shadow. During the wars against Morgoth, many of these blades were turned against Balrogs, orcs, and even dragons. Weapons such as Anglichel, later reforged into Gurthang by Turin Turambar, demonstrated the potency and often the tragic legacy of elven smithcraft. Though darkly made, it revealed the depth of power that elven blades could contain. By the Second Age, the tradition of elven blades spread into the great realms of Lindon and Eregion. Celebrimbor and his fellow smiths forged countless works of subtle enchantment, and while much of their fame lay in the rings of power, their craft extended also to weapons of war. The Noldorin smiths perfected the long, curved blades that would become iconic in the hands of elven warriors. These weapons were balanced with such precision that even mortals who wielded them remarked on their lightness and deadly sharpness. Unlike the straight broadswords of men, elven blades were designed for fluidity and speed, favoring grace over brute strength. In battle, they allowed the elves to move with uncanny swiftness, their swordplay more a dance than a clash. The most renowned elven blades in the Third Age were those that survived from Gondolin. When that hidden city fell in the First Age, many treasures were lost, yet some swords endured the ruin and were rediscovered millennia later. Glamdring, Orcrist, and Sting were three such weapons, each carrying the memory of that lost kingdom. Glamdring, born by Turgon himself, was recovered by Gandalf in The Hobbit and served him throughout his journeys. Orcrist, claimed by Thorin Oakenshield, became a symbol of dwarven leadership despite its elven origins, while Sting, though no more than a dagger to the elves, proved a mighty sword in the hand of Bilbo and later Frodo. All three glowed with a cold light when orcs were near, a testament to the anti-shadow enchantments woven into their making. In this, elven blades were not simply weapons, but tools of vigilance, alerting their bearers to danger even before it struck. The power of elven blades extended beyond their sharpness. Many were enchanted to resist wear, never dulling with time, and some were said to bite through the armor of orcs and trolls with ease. Others bore runes that made them deadly against servants of darkness. Their durability alone set them apart. While the swords of men might rust or break, an elven blade could endure for centuries untarnished. This made them both practical and symbolic heirlooms, passed down through generations and binding together ages of history. When Gandalf wielded Glamdring, he bore not only a weapon, but a memory of the First Age, and in Frodo's hand, Sting represented the continuity of resistance against shadow from Gondolin to the Shire. In warfare, the elves trained tirelessly with their swords. Whereas archery may have been their defining battlefield strength, their use of blades was no less refined. In close combat, the speed and precision of their swordplay often overwhelmed orcs, who relied on brute force and numbers. Elves fought with coordination and rhythm, able to maintain formation and execute complex maneuvers even in the press of battle. In the War of the Last Alliance, when elves marched beside men on the plains of Dagorlad, their swords cut through ranks of orcs with terrifying efficiency. Accounts in legend speak of lines of elves moving as one, their blades flashing like waves of light against the darkness. The symbolism of elven blades was inseparable from their practical use. To the elves, weapons were not tools of domination, but instruments of necessity, wielded in defense of their homes and against the encroaching shadow. Each sword carried with it the artistry of its maker, the burden of memory, and the light of resistance. In the hands of mortals, These blades represented more than utility. They were tokens of alliance between races, gifts that bridged divides. Bilbo's sting, a relic of elven craft, embodied the courage of the small standing against the great. Thorin's wielding of Orcrist symbolized the intertwined fates of dwarves and elves, despite their enmities. Ultimately, elven blades were a reminder that in Middle-earth, warfare was never divorced from beauty and meaning. The elves imbued their weapons with the same spirit that shaped their songs, their architecture, and their lore. A sword was more than a weapon of death. It was a guardian of memory, a vessel of light, and a legacy that endured long after kingdoms had fallen. From the forges of Valinor to the halls of Rivendell and the lost vaults of Gondolin, elven blades stood as one of the most enduring testaments to the union of craft and purpose in the struggle against darkness. If you enjoyed this episode of Middle-earth Uncharted, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more adventures ahead. The road goes ever on and on.